Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Unfog with Dr. Atahar Parveen. Friends, believe me, this is a must to watch video for all the aspirants present in our YouTube channel. While we were going through this Karnataka State Eligibility Test 2024 physics question paper, we found something very interesting and very surprising. And it is also a good news for all of you. So to know this, you have to stay tuned till the end in this video. Okay, so if you are preparing seriously for HSTR, GPSTR, CRIS, or even for Karnataka TET for that matter, then without extra effort you can solve 30% of questions from Karnataka State Eligibility Test question paper. Yes, you heard it right. Your teacher recruitment exam preparation is automatically helping you for KSET exam also. This way, if you are preparing for one exam, then you are also preparing for another exam parallelly. Okay, so I will have to prove this to you, right? So I will solve questions which we have picked and which are overlapping from CRIS and HSTR syllabus, and we will try to solve them in easiest possible way. So watch this video carefully till the end, because this is just part 1. We will be continuing this video in part 2, and then you will get 100% proof by the end of part 2 video that we will be uploading soon after this video. Okay, so let us start with our discussion, which is very important for your KSET exam also and for your teacher recruitment exams also. Now this is the physics question paper of Karnataka State Eligibility Test 2024. I have taken this question paper from the KEA website. If we scroll down this question paper, we can find some questions which come under our HSTR and CRIS syllabus. So we have analyzed the entire question paper, and then we have chosen those questions which will overlap with the syllabus of our teacher recruitment exams, and now we can solve those particular questions. Okay, if you want this full question paper to analyze yourself also, you will get it in our Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel is given below this video. Once you see the question paper, you will understand what we are trying to tell you. Okay, so now let us start analyzing those questions which are coming from our HSTR and CRIS syllabus. Now see this question. This is question number 3 from that question paper of KSET 2024 physics. Okay, the question is, a real orthogonal 2 into 2 matrix is given by A is equal to AB, CD. Which of the following gives A inverse? And there are 4 options. Here you should know that for a real orthogonal matrix A inverse is nothing but transpose of the matrix. And what is transpose of the matrix? There you will have to change the second diagonal elements. In place of B you will write C, and in place of C you will write B. We have written it in red color here. So the transpose of a matrix is now ACBD. This is also the inverse of the matrix, which is A inverse. So that's why here from the options, option 2 will be the correct answer. Okay, this is very simple, right? Any aspirant who is preparing for HSTR PM method mathematics will know this, right? So that's why we are including this question in our discussion today. Let's see next question now. Directly we went to question number 11, which comes under our syllabus. So the question is, a heavy symmetry top is rotating about its own axis of symmetry, 3 axis. If I1, I2 and I3 are the principal moment of inertia along x, y, z axis respectively, then they have given 4 options wherein they are telling that the moment of inertia I2 is equal to I3 and I1 is not equal to I2 and so on. 4 options are there. Now what you should understand here is that the vertical line is the axis of the symmetry, which we are taking as a z axis now. We also call it as a 3 axis. Now because the top is circular, the x axis and the y axis, I mean to say the directions of x and y axis, they are identical. Because anyways, if it is rotating, the sideways rotation will look the same only, right? So now what is remaining here? Only z, right? So which one should be the correct answer here? I1 and I2 should be same, and I3 should not be same with I1 and I2, right? So if you observe the options carefully, option number 3 will set to the correct answer, because here I1 and I2 are same. But I1 and I3 will not be equal to each other, because I3 is the z-axis. Okay, let us go for another question which comes under our syllabus and is also coming in the KSET question paper. See this question. A particle is moving in an inverse square law force. If the total energy of the particle is positive, then the trajectory of the particle is, and the options they are giving are circular, elliptical, parabolic, hyperbolic. See here, the particle is moving under an inverse square law force. Inverse square law force is one of a force like the gravity or the electric force, right? So here, under this force, if the particle is having negative energy, it means that it will be bounded inside a ellipse. If the particle is having zero energy, then it will be able to just escape, and it can have a trajectory of a parabola. Like that only, if the particle is having positive energy, then it can easily freely escape, and it can have a trajectory of a hyperbola. So that's why, as per the question, the total energy of the particle is positive. So the particle will have a trajectory of hyperbola. The answer will be option 4, hyperbolic. The particle is having less speed means it will be bound inside the ellipse. If it is having enough speed to escape means it will have a trajectory of parabola. If it is having nice positive energy means it will have more speed, so that it can easily escape and have a hyperbolic trajectory. Okay. Then after this we got another question coming from our syllabus. See this question. If a ball is dropped at one end of a tunnel drilled through the center of the earth, then the ball, see the options. A ball is dropped at the one end of a tunnel drilled through the center of the earth, then the ball, it will come out of the opposite end of the tunnel, it will stop at the center, it will execute oscillations about the center, or option 4 is bounces back at the starting point. So you need to imagine here, if a ball is dropped, then gravity will pull that ball to the center, right? But because ball is having speed, it will pass to the other side also, right? When it is passing to the other side, again gravity is pulling it back, so the ball is again coming towards its center, I mean the center of the earth. Again the ball is trying to go away, again the gravity is pulling back. So what is actually happening here is that the ball is executing oscillations about the center. So that's why option 3 will be the correct answer here. Let us go for another question. Directly we had to go for question number 17. The question is, which of the following statements are not true about electric force Fe and magnetic force Fm on a charged particle? They have given 4 statements. Below that they have given 4 options. You will have to see the 4 statements also carefully, then only you will be able to answer. See, first you should understand that the electric force is equal to Q into E. Now this Q into E, it does not depend on velocity, because you don't have the velocity term here, right? So Fe is not depending on velocity, whereas Fm is depending on velocity, because it is QV into B. This is not actually into, this is a cross product, right? So Fm is the cross product of QV and B. So here clearly Fm is depending on velocity, and because a cross product is there, it is also perpendicular to velocity. Okay. One more thing is that because Fe is not depending upon velocity, it does work. And because Fm is depending upon velocity, it does not do any work. Now see the options. E is parallel to Fe, whereas B is perpendicular to Fm. Yes, here because it is a dot product, Fe is parallel to E, and because this is a cross product, it is perpendicular. So option A, I mean the statement A is a true. See statement B, both Fe and Fm depend upon velocity of the charged particle. No, it is false. Right. Next statement C, both Fe and Fm can perform work. This is also false. Only force can perform work which is related to electric force. Okay. Then statement D. Fe is an acceleration force while Fe is purely deflecting force. Even this statement is true. So now if you see the options, B and C are false statements, and in the question they are telling which statements are not true. So our option 2 will be the correct answer here. Okay, let's move on to next question which we found from the KSET question paper. The question is, if a plane wave of mixed polarization is incident on a plane interface between two media at the Brewster's angle, then the reflected radiation is, and the four options are there: circularly polarized, unpolarized, completely plane polarized with polarization vector parallel, or polarization vector perpendicular to plane of the incidence. See, actually our light has vibrations in many directions, which means that it is mixed polarized, right? But at Brewster's angle, the reflected light becomes plane polarized. We also call Brewster's angle as polarization angle. This means that light is vibrating only in one direction, and that direction is perpendicular to the plane of the incidence. So that's why here the correct answer will be option 4. Okay, so remember, at Brewster's angle, reflection makes light 100% polarized in one direction. Okay, we also call it as a polarizing angle. Let us go for next question. So this question is from quantum mechanics, so we can say that this question is from CRISE syllabus. HSTR does not have proper quantum mechanics in syllabus, right? So see this question. A wave function psi of r of a particle in a 3D space has physical dimensions m to the a, l to the b and t to the c, with m being mass, l being length and t being time. Identify the correct statement. See, whoever knows the concept of wave function must be preparing for CRISE for sure. Now, in quantum mechanics, we have a term known as probability. This probability to find the particle in a small volume dV is actually equal to mod of psi r whole square into dV. Okay, now this mod of psi whole square will have the dimension of per volume, means volume will be there in the denominator. And what is the definition of the volume? It is L cube, right? It has everything to do with the side of the cube, right? L cube, right? Now here in the question they are giving m to the a, l to the b, t to the c. So here, because we are talking about the probability to find the particle, if I remove the whole square and send it this side, then I will have psi approximately equal to L to the minus 3 by 2, which is actually the dimension for length. So this is L to the B. So here, as per the question, the mass will be 0 and time will be 0 because we are talking about the wave function. Only the length will be there, which will be equal to 3 by 2. So here option 3 will be the correct answer. Okay, clear, right? Let's go for a next question which comes under our syllabus. See this question. The ground state energy of positronium, a bound system of an electron and its antiparticle positron, is approximately equal to, and four options are there. We know that the ground state energy for electron is minus 13.6 eV, right? Now keeping this in mind, you should understand that as they have given in the question only, positronium is equal to electron plus positron, right? So positronium is having two particles, electron and positron. What is the energy of electron in ground state? Minus 13.6 eV, right? So what will be the double energy? Because we are talking about two particles now. So double energy should be half of minus 13.6 eV, right? Because we are talking about negative energy. If there was no negative sign, then we would think that it is 13.6 into 2. Because if I want double of minus 13.6 means the number will be lesser. Because we are talking about the negative value. See, this is the origin, this is the positive value, this is the negative value. So here minus 13.6 is less when you compare to minus 6.8. Okay, you get my point, right? Anyway, if you want to go with the proper formula, means you have the formula for reduced mass and then you can do the substitution and get the answer. But I am giving you simple logic based on our syllabus only. So the simple logic is that the energy should be double. We know the ground state energy is minus 13.6. So I will have to do it by 2 in order to make it double because I have a negative sign. So the correct answer here will be minus 6.8 EV, because this is equal to minus 6.8 EV. Okay, clear, right? Let's go for another question. This is from thermodynamics part. The question is, Helmholtz free energy F is defined as, they have given symbols with usual meanings and they are given 4 options. See here actually, the Helmholtz free energy, we define it as F is equal to U minus Ts. What is Ts? It is the heat energy which is not available for us to use. U is the internal energy. So the definition for Helmholtz free energy is nothing but the total energy minus the unusable heat energy. This actually comes from our second law of thermodynamics. At constant temperature and volume, any spontaneous process will always have the Helmholtz free energy F, which decreases. Okay, if the process is spontaneous means it decreases. But if the system is in equilibrium, in that situation the Helmholtz free energy stays constant. So as per this definition, option 2 should be the correct answer here. Okay, let's move to the next question. In fact, this question though came directly, I think in HSTR 2015 question paper also. So the question is, the absolute temperature of a perfect black body is increased to twice its value. The rate of emission of energy per unit area will become. So they are actually talking about the Stefan Boltzmann law, which states that the energy emitted per unit area is proportional to T to the 4. So if temperature becomes 2T, what should be the emission? It should become 2 to the 4, right? Because in the question they are telling twice its value, right? So it should become 2 to the 4, which is 16 times. So option 4 will be the correct answer here. Next question. See this question from electronic cities. Don't get scared by seeing the question. Just understand that in the question they have given current and voltage and they are asking you resistance. And you know the Ohm's law, then you can easily find out the answer, right? From only your HSTR syllabus only you will be knowing all this, right? So the question is for a certain JFET, that is a junction field effect transistor, IGSS. Don't worry about the symbols and all that. Just think that this is a current. This is 10 nanoampere. This is the voltage, which is 12 volts. You have to find the input resistance. What you have to do? Just apply your Ohm's law, which is V by I is equal to resistance. Substitute the values. You will get 1 into 10 to the 9 ohms. Convert it into mega ohms. So it will become 10 to the 3 into 10 to the 6 ohms or 10 to the 3 mega ohms. So here option 3 will be the correct answer. Okay, clear, right? So by now you should be understanding what we were actually trying to tell. If you are seriously preparing for HSTR and CRISE, then you will be able to answer nearly 30% of questions from KSET question paper also. Okay friends, I will stop the class here. We will continue this class and prove that if you are preparing for CRISE, HSTR, GPSTR and TET, then you will be able to answer 30% of KSET questions also. Okay. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we will post the next part of this class as soon as we get 100 likes. Okay. Thank you. All the best. Bye.